Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be doing a first impressions video on the new Godfest exclusives, the new Odins split or Mega Awoken evolutions, as well as Nohime, Nene, and Oichi. So this new Godfest exclusive that will debut in Japan in the very near future and North America probably 2 to 3 months later is interesting. So it has two distinct forms, which basically just changes the Awakenings and Leader's skill, but we retain the exact same active. So her active skill adds 2 combos for 1 turn and delays all enemies for 2 turns. So this is actually not a terrible waste of a plus combo count active skill, because at least the secondary benefit of 2 turns delay can be meaningful sometimes. So let's say you don't need 2 combo count, but you can benefit from the delay. It's not a terrible option. She's got very large assets, like almost too large, and it's kind of unusual for pad standards. But her leader skill in this form here is focusing around making 4+ combos, which can always be done. And then you get 3 seconds more of movement time, so that's why she has no time extends. But then she gets an additional 5 times attack and slight damage reduction when 6+ connected orbs are matched. So at least from this wording here, it does not look like it cares which color is 6+ connected. So that means on a given board, you can always activate. And that's 225 times damage. So that's actually a reasonably high multiplier. And like, statistically speaking, like the worst possible scenarios on a 6x5 board, you have 30 orbs and you have a perfect 5 distribution for each element. That's incredibly unlikely. So in theory, you should be able to activate, I guess, assuming it doesn't care about the color. Maybe it's only the color that gets the bonus damage. And if that's the case, then it's going to be a lot harder to actually use her, because you're going to have to find a way to get 6 red orbs every turn, which is not that practical for the most part. So it's kind of awkward. Like, yes, you have damage reduction, but if you have to match red every turn, you can't stall necessarily. So I feel like that can be awkward. It all depends on that wording aspect. And then in her other form, she has the exact same active skill, but instead of Fire Rose and the equivalent of 4 skill boosts, she has 1 skill boost, but 3 TPAs and then 2 Void Damage Penetration Awakenings. So these Void Damage Penetration Awakenings are giving Fire a brand new option for actually piercing through. It gives more merit to the Magic the Gathering card like Giara, who is a 7x6 leader who needs fire and red activation. So Madu can be a very viable sub for her team, just because, well, it's now a strong red card that has void damage penetration, because Ilmina was kind of the best card up until this point for the team, but her active skill wasn't that great. And in other regards, like water and fire don't really have very good void damage penetration options. So this would be a great card to have for those teams, because even though she doesn't have 7 combos, the double void damage penetration awakenings give large amounts of damage boosts, and the TPAs can add supplemental damage. So you pop an active skill like Mori Montanari, and then you can pop Madu afterwards for the +2 combo count just to ramp up your damage even further, and you should be able to pierce through most spawns. So this is a nice thing overall, so it does give a bit more flexibility to Giara teams, at least, because that was one of the biggest drawbacks comparing her to Diablos. Now, as a leader, she has 4 times attack, 2 times recovery for fire, so that's a nice passive benefit, no condition whatsoever, so you can always heal from a given board. You don't have to worry about matching certain patterns. You have bonus orb movement time, which is the same as her other form, and then she gets 3 times attack and slight damage reduction when 5+ connected orbs are matched. So it's only 144 times damage, but maybe that also means you can activate more easily, perhaps. Again, I don't know if it's just restricted to the specific color gaining bonus damage, or it's all attributes gaining bonus damage. It doesn't specify, at least in the translations, and I can't read Japanese. So as a leader, kind of modest, but this is much more of a sub-oriented card overall, I feel. So interesting overall, but not necessarily as game-breaking as other cards have been in the past. Now, this card here is, I can't pronounce her name, unfortunately, but she's got a quite interesting kit. She's got a 5-turn bind and Awoken bind clear, and changes the top row to hard orbs. So it's a great way to heal up as well as clear binds. She unfortunately does not have bind clear awakenings, which is kind of awkward, but someone on your team probably will, perhaps, to benefit from the row of hearts. Or if not, you just pretty much just match them and heal. Like, it's not a terrible outcome overall, but it has nice bind clearing potential. So I guess it's kind of overkill if you have the recover bind awakenings and use her active skill. Like, you're probably not needing to clear more than 5 turns of binds, in all honesty. So her leader skill is 2 times health and attack for dark, 2.5 times when 6+ combos, 2 times and slight damage reduction with 2+ heart combos. So You have 2, 4, 4 times 2.5. It's still nowhere near high enough to be really justifiable. It's just not going to work out. But she actually can become a very powerful sub for the new Magic the Gathering green 6-star card, Vraska. Name pronunciation may be a little off, but her team has 4 times health and no recovery multipliers. So the biggest issue on that team is healing up. So with this girl here, you have those 3 enhanced Heart of Awakenings, and that definitely can make up for a lot of the healing problems on your team. It's not going to solve them completely, but it's definitely going to help overall. Furthermore, she has the bonus damage when low health Awakenings. So when Vraska gets hit by large attacks, which is going to happen, you actually be kind of low health, and now you kind of tap into these bonus damage Awakenings. So she is providing healing and bonus damage when you're low health. I think a pretty valuable card overall for Vraska teams. So Blue Athena is kind of like Dark Athena in the sense that it will come from Pad Radar and the real life things that happen in Japan, like packs, codes, etc. So maybe it'll be a monster point unit like Dark Athena. Again, speculation, we don't know. But her active skill is interesting. It's a 12-turn cooldown, so 1 more turn than Dark Athena, but you get the same 3-turn delay and 3-turn bind recovery. Now, having bind recovery and delaying at the same time, it's kind of a weird combination. I don't really foresee any particular scenario where you need both of them. So it might just feel like you're adding an additional turn, but on that same train of thought, it gives you flexibility. You can run her either as an inherit or a sub, and you can either have bind clearing or delaying depending on what you need in the dungeon. So not a terrible option overall. And again, it's only 1 additional cooldown, so it's not too painful. And she does have 3 skill boosts and 3 TPAs, so like she is kind of mirroring Dark Athena prior to her evolution. So like it's basically the similar style card, no base recovery, which can be awkward. So her leader skill is 1.5 times health and 4 times attack for God, attack, or machine. So using different typing cards, so your team building is different. She also likes water cards for the most part. But her leader skill secondary clause is different. She gets 3 times attack, 2 times recovery when 5+ connected orbs are matched. So kind of like Madu, that new Godfest exclusive. So again, is it color specific? I'm not sure. If it's not color specific, you have great healing potential because you have 4 times recovery and 2.25 times health basically all the time, because you can connect 5 of any element, and that should be easy, and then heal up at the same time. So that could be beneficial, but unfortunately, you only have 144 times attack. It may not necessarily be enough in this day and age. You have no skill bind resist, so it does put some constraints on team building, but it's just not as meta as other current options. So this card here, whose name I cannot pronounce, is a reward from the current ranking dungeon of getting 17% or higher score. So they have an assist evolution, which is kind of what you're really going to be eyeballing, and it retains the exact same weighted stats. And those are nice weighted stats. That's a nice amount of health, a nice amount of attack, and a very nice amount of recovery. So this is great overall. And you also give team health and team recovery as awakening. So that's actually a big deal. You're going to be transferring a large amount of stats with this card. So leaving them unskilled, I'm not quite sure how long it's going to be, but my guess is going to be quite a long cooldown, because at max skill it's already 14 turns. It should be more than 20 plus. So a nice on-stat color transfer as well as team health and team recovery bonus. So that's great in itself. But it's their active skill that can be quite interesting. The active skill vastly reduces damage taken for 1 turn. I'm going to assume that's 75% because that's kind of the similar wording to like Indra. And you void Attribute Absorb for 1 turn. So Attribute Absorb basically is absorbing specific colors. So Noah Dragon absorbs certain colors, Machine Hera absorbs certain colors, so on and so forth. So as in terms of like voiding of mechanics go, this is a lot more niche compared to like Fujin style active skill, which is voiding damage absorbs. So it's a little different, but it still can be meaningful. And like I said, if you leave them unskilled, they're transferring a massive amount of stats to your team. So it could be just worth it. Like, yes, there are other options for attribute absorb voids, but they're pretty niche and situational overall. Like, not that many teams or dungeons or spawns really have that mechanic. But again, I'm excited for this. So I kind of like jumped through this YouTube video here, and I can see that the red and blue Odins have full bind immunity, 3 skill boosts, 1 skill bind resist, 1 time extend, and 2 void damage penetration awakenings. So it's kind of like Madu in the sense that you have 2 void damage penetration awakenings, but the problem is you don't have any TPAs, you don't have any 7 combos, you don't have any other damage augmentation awakening. So that can place some constraints on terms of their spike potential. But again, it does give Jara more options because now we have 2 new cards that are red or blue, which have synergy with her leader skill. So it does give at least a bit more options, kind of filling in those gaps that she currently has. So I'm going to just jump to them first because we have them fresh in our minds. So both of them have the ability to change light and hearts to their respective colors, so either water or fire, and then +2 combos for 1 turn. So basically it's kind of saying, hey, let's use our active skill. We don't need to have a bi-color board changer. We can make our box, we can make some combos, get +2 combo count, and deal meaningful amounts of damage. So it's a reasonably strong active skill, much stronger than their base active skills were, but it's definitely changing the role they will play. For the most part, Red Odin didn't really have much of a role at this point in time. Better options exist, and their cooldowns are 12 turns. So that's basically the same as Mary Dionalis, basically double orb changer +2 combo count, 12 turn cooldown, the exact same value, but just changing different colors for the most part. So it does change their roles. Like Blue Odin will no longer be used as like a skill boost stick to inherit something over top because, well, he now has a 6 turn instead of, now has a 12 instead of a 6 turn cooldown. So it does give them new value and merit, but they're not necessarily going to eclipse like current top tier void damage penetration cards like Yusuke and Valentine's Day. Like those two cards tend to be the best options provided the teams can actually utilize their colors. So it does give some depth to Giara and that 7x6 Magic the Gathering card basically, but not going to make too big a splash overall. In terms of their leader skills, they have 5 times attack and slight damage reduction when 6+ combos are matched, 2.5 times attack when matching 4 connected of the respective primary element. So that is a total of, quick math, 156.25 times damage. So not terrible, not amazing, but it's still reasonable overall. So it's an okay leader. They're at least bind immune. They have lots of skill boosts, but it may not necessarily be the kind of leader you want to use. Like, again, like you have to match 4 connect of their primary element. It still should be doable, but I don't know. We'll see. Like, I guess I have to see like how well it plays out. Like having permanent kind of damage reduction is nice. It's kind of like Nicol Bolas and how he plays out. But again, Nicol Bolas has much higher damage spiking potential overall. But reasonable cards gives them much more viability compared to what their current forms are. And then lastly, we're gonna like just review like the split forms or split ultimate forms of Nene, Oichi, and Nohime. So they're gonna follow kind of like Tachibana. They're gonna retain the same base active skill as their original form. So basically the +2 combo count form with their board changer. So those +2 combo count board changers were basically just used to add bonus combos and then use a bicolor to make void damage penetration boards much more easy and consistent overall. So basically Nene is getting that, but she gets some extra awakenings. Nene's not necessarily used that much at this point in time as a sub, mostly as an inherit, especially for Yusuke teams. I don't really see this evolution making her a truly desirable use case sub because it's not adding that much. But again, maybe if you need this +2 combo count active to come up faster, as well as the tri-elemental board changer, not a terrible option to use overall. I feel like she would have the most merit, at least in this form, compared to the other two. Their leader skills are all about, or her leader skills can no longer match 3 connected orbs, but it's only 144 times damage. You need 2 water combos. It's a little awkward because you can't match connected 3, so you need 8 water orbs. It's a lot of effort for not that much reward. Oichi's similar style leader skill. Her active skill is basically the idea of dark, wood, and hard orbs. So great value active skill for cards like Zila, Vraska, Kaede, like nice for those wood-oriented teams. And they gain like the 7 combo and time extend. You may not necessarily want to use them as subs, but they do have high recovery, and Vraska teams would like high recovery, so maybe not necessarily a terrible option to run on our teams. The only drawback is you have significantly less awakenings. And lastly, we come to Nohime, which looks gorgeous overall. She's still at the double 7 combo and full bind immunity, so basically like Tachibana, essentially. And her leader skill is very similar. It's yet to match basically almost full rainbow activation, fire, water, wood, dark being matched at the same time, and then leaving 6 or less connected orbs on the board for a grand total of 20, so 400 times attack. It's quite a bit of effort because you need to have all the colors on the board, which can be a little problematic. Now with Nicol Bolas, we have a great no Skyfall leaving orb leader on the board, leaving orbs on the board leader. We have Amen, we have Kaede. Like those options do surpass Nohime, so it's a little challenging to use her. And I honestly feel that people would not be changing their only Nohime to this form because the other Nohime gives a 75% damage reduction shield, which is great with a board changer, but it comes with 3 skill boosts. And 3 skill boosts can solve a lot of problems in solo mode or like shorter challenge dungeons. So let me know what you think about all these new cards as well as buffs and evolutions in the comments below. Do you think you regret trading in your Odins now for various Monster Exchange cards, or are you still content with the fact that you parted ways with Odin? hopefully all have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.